It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, people, it is Friday, September 13th, 2024. That's right, it's Friday the 13th, and I guess the scariest thing I can say to you is that Kamala Harris might be president. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. As you can see, it is Casual Friday here on the Rubin Report, and there is no post-game show today. We have our reasons. However, I will make it up to you because we've got a Rubin Report Locals community Q&A, so we'll get to a whole bunch of your questions. We're going to do a little debate recap, Joe Biden putting on a MAGA hat, a little bit of what happened when a couple of the presidents visited the 9/11 memorial. But before we get to any of that, I made the news, and it's rather disturbing. Let's show, I think we have two headlines to show. We're going to show them at the same time. One from the New York Post and one from Mediaite. New York Post, pro-Trump podcaster Dave Rubin apparently insinuates, that's journalism, that Venezuelan gangs could kill Taylor Swift. Mediaite, Dave Rubin urges young pretty girl Taylor Swift to reconsider Harris endorsement because Venezuelan gangs might kill her. I'd like to address this because obviously it's a big controversy. Now, it's the particularly interesting headline there is the New York Post one, because apparently insinuates, which is a really interesting phrase because I never said or kill, but I actually did mean it. So they had to put apparently insinuates. The thing is, what I was saying was, and I completely stand by this, and it's sort of funny. Years ago, the media used to make up things about me and I was annoyed. Now they say the true things about me and I'm like, yeah, it actually is true. You guys are just idiots. My point was that Taylor Swift, who endorsed Kamala Harris right after the debate, and it was obviously pre-planned and pre-written and pre-packaged and, you know, just all of that stuff, you might want to think about the policies of the person that you're endorsing. And the policies that she's endorsed have allowed millions of illegals here. We now know gang members are all over the country on top of the drugs and everything else. And yeah, Venezuelan gang members, they might do things to pretty young girls. There were some people online that were annoyed at me because I said that Taylor Swift is a pretty young girl and she's 34. That seems young to me, but okay. But you get it. These people are just grasping at straws for anything. And I love how they put pro-Trump in there. That's doubly bad. Anyway, putting that aside, I will go on. Don't worry, I'll be okay. We had a massively viral video fact-checking Kamala Harris at the debate. And we haven't put it on YouTube, so I wanted to just start the show with it because it did get banned on TikTok. I'll have more on that in just a second. But this thing got millions and millions of views across other platforms. And since many of you are always asking me, you know, can we find these perfect videos that absolutely just destroy the narrative? Take a look at this.
He will sign a national abortion ban.
It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban.
Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor.
What she says is an absolute lie.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy. We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Let's remember Charlottesville. There were fine people on each side.
Very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away.
Let us finally pass an assault weapons ban and universal background checks and red flag laws.
Okay, so my guys Joey and Brock put that thing together. Probably took them about an hour to do, and you didn't have to dig deep to uncover the lies, right? Obviously. By the way, there were many other lies. She lied about his position on IVF. She lied about her own position on fracking, and way, way more. That was just a simple one we put out there. Interestingly, it was banned on TikTok within 5 minutes of going up. They told us this. So first they told us it was misinformation. We then asked them, oh, please, 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 please let us have it. Please let us put the video up. And they told us, no, it's not going to go back up. It cannot be restored because of synthetic and manipulated media. Synthetic. I guess that's what they refer to Kamala Harris as now, because I don't think she's a real person. I think she's an avatar for all of the ideas of the left. But anyway, you get it. So there's a little of everything there. It's the lies of the Democrats, the way they work with the media, in cahoots, then big tech running cover for them when you expose them, and all of that stuff. But now let's jump over to mainstream media, because it has been a heck of a week watching them try to just narrative the hell out of this thing and make it seem like, oh my God, Kamala actually crushed Trump. I am fairly certain that not one Donald Trump supporter was suddenly like, you know what? I watched that debate and I'm voting for Kamala. Anywho, the new thing that the mainstream media people are trying to do is trying to bludgeon celebrities, athletes, musicians, actors, comedians, everybody. Just bludgeon them into saying they will vote for Kamala Harris. Here is Joy Behar of The View, and they had Usher on, and he wasn't taking the bait. I'm not exactly sure what he was saying, but he wasn't taking the bait.
Taylor Swift has now endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yes.
And she was very, I thought, very smart the way she did it. It was like, you do your research and you decide for yourselves, but I, a single cat woman, as she points to, I am voting for Kamala. Do you think, I always say that in this emergency that we're in, I think that behooves artists to come out and speak for Kamala against Donald Trump, because he is an existential threat to the country. What do you say to that?
You know what? I don't get too deep into politics. I didn't get a chance to watch the debate last night. I obviously have been watching like everybody else. I think voting is an individual choice. And I think that you're right. You have to look at the reality of the country that we are and the country that we want to be, and find the candidate that you feel both are who fits the category of where we want to be. And that's it. And that's what you vote based off of. Who you highlight and how you choose to highlight it on whatever platform you have is your prerogative.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I mean, that is pretty damn beautiful. I didn't mean to be dismissive of what he said. Like, he's just not taking the bait. He's an artist. He wants Kamala Harris supporters and Trump supporters and independents and people who don't give a shit about politics and people who aren't Americans to come to his concerts and listen to his music. What's an Usher song? I don't know an Usher song. Anyone know an Usher song? We got A-Town. I've been told A-Town. That you just made that up. A-Town? All right, A-Town. That was from Connor. I don't know if it's that. Yeah? Oh, yeah? Wait, oh, yeah is the song, or oh, yeah, A-Town's the song? Oh, yeah, exclamation point. Drop the O. Yeah. He has a song just called Yeah. Yeah. All right, great. So that's good. Anyway, he wants people to watch him dance while he's singing Yeah. Singing, or it's rapping, I guess, or it's whatever it is. The point is, the guy does something, and he wants people to watch him do it. It's fine. And he's not taking the bait. So good on you, Usher. I don't mean to be dismissive of your art or who you are as a human being. And it's not just the musicians they are trying to bludgeon into this nonsense. Patrick Mahomes, who of course is the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is from the Kansas City Star, the media was trying to get him to go all in on bashing Trump and supporting Kamala, but check this out.
Former President Trump referenced you and your family again today on Fox News in relation to his campaign. I just wonder what your reaction is to seeing that.
Yeah, I think I've always said I don't want my place and my platform to be used to endorse a candidate or do whatever. Either way, I think my place is to inform people to get registered to vote. It's to inform people to do their own research and then make their best decision for them and their family. And so I think that's every time I'm on this stage and I get asked these questions, I'm going to refer back to that because I think that's what makes America so great.
I think it was important, though, I don't know if important is the right word, but when you were at the U.S. Open this past weekend and you guys were there with Taylor and Travis, I mean, is that an important image to show that, you know, people who may have different philosophies can...
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always, even dating back, I think if you've seen my history, I've run up with people from every every aspect of life, in every background. And I think the best thing about a football locker room and kind of how I've grown up in baseball locker rooms, everything about that is people can come together and achieve something and achieve a common goal. And I think if we can, I mean, we talked about it a while back, but I think if we can do that as a nation, I think we can get the best out of each other. And so I think that's something that I do every single day. And whenever I'm hanging out with whoever, I'm not thinking about their political views or anything like that. I'm thinking about the people and how they treat other people. And I was with a lot of great people this weekend.
Isn't that just right and great and good and decent and what you would want to hear out of anybody? You know, I live in a very intense political situation. I go play basketball with a group of guys. Everyone wants to talk about politics with me. Someone sees me at dinner, they want to talk about politics with me. And I'm always trying to get people to talk about other things. I get that it's an important piece of life and you should be aware and try to affect things to the extent that you can. But he's totally right. The guy's a freaking amazing football player, and that's what he wants to focus on. And he wants fans across the aisle. He wants to say, oh, you're a good person, I'll be friends with you. But they're constantly trying to put this wedge in between all of us. But as I said, more and more of us are not falling for it. Here's Dana White from the UFC talking about the debate bias, the Biden coup, Kamala's nomination process. And again, this is not, I always tell you, I like people who are not purely political, who do other things. They then get stuck in the culture wars and they actually come out on the right side of the whole thing.
Besides the Contender Series being the biggest thing in America going on tonight, your friend Donald Trump is having his debate. Have you had a chance to watch any of it, or?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you this. He called me an hour before the debate. I talked to him when I was coming here, right when we got off the plane. I was in L.A. today. And, you know, I said, this, first of all, it's the second time he has to debate, right? He already did a debate. They didn't like how the debate turned out. So they want to kick that guy out. He's unfit to run, yet he's still the president of the United States. Now they bring in somebody who wasn't elected to actually be in there, and they'll only do it on ABC. You know, it was 3-1 tonight for him. He was facing 3-1. So I don't know how it went or what happened, but you know, I know he took it seriously. He said, "I look at this as like a heavyweight fight. I'm not taking anybody lightly." And
I don't know. They're eating dogs and cats.
Huh?
He said they're eating dogs and cats.
Who's eating dogs and cats?
The Haitians.
Oh.
Somebody was eating dogs and cats.
Okay. So what's that mean?
Ask him.
No, I think Aioli's referring to the Haitian immigrants that have been put into some populations, and some of them cook dogs and cats. But anyway, did you give him any advice?
I'll keep that between me and him.
There's something really interesting about that clip. Again, he's not a purely political guy. He lays out the political reality better than anyone you're going to see on CNN, right? That he talks about the irony of Biden being unfit to run and how he crushed Biden last time, yet he's still the president of the United States. Then the Kamala got no votes, wasn't elected, that it was 3-1. Then, of course, they're asking about the dogs and cats. He doesn't know a thing about it. And it's like, what's right behind him? It's the UFC fight logo, right? It's ESPN behind him. And when you want to know why so many people have just tuned out of all of these things, and my entire YouTube search feed is NBA games from 1987 to 1997, basically, it's because of that. It was apolitical back then. I remember very clearly in 1992, during the NBA playoffs, that summer was the LA riots after the Rodney King incident, and everybody wanted Michael Jordan to comment on it, and he basically was like, I'm not going to take sides here. I think he said something to the effect of, Republicans wear sneakers too, which ended up, Clay Travis used at least a version of that for one of his books. And that's the point. You don't always have to be political all the time, everywhere. Now, the reason I'm showing you that is that as more of these people break out of this thing, like I don't know that Usher and Dana White have anything in common, right? I don't know that they have anything in common. I don't know that the football players have any, and none of these guys have anything in common, but they're all just kind of like, I'm not playing this game anymore. And that's in stark contrast to 4 years ago, because 4 years ago, at the height of the BLM lunacy and the height of COVID lunacy and all of that stuff, think how many of these types of videos we were getting out of Hollywood. Check out these NPC people and don't forget it.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not so funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality. Or turned a blind eye.
I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters, our friends, our family. We are done watching them die. We are no longer bystanders. We will not be idle. Enough is enough.
I will no longer allow an unchecked moment. I will no longer allow racist, hurtful words, jokes, stereotypes, no matter how big or small, to be uttered in my presence.
I will not turn a blind eye. Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home should not be a death sentence.
Playing video games with your nephew should not be a death sentence.
I've played video games with my nephew many times and no one has died. These people are all, they're the racists. They even put the video in black and white because they're so obsessed with it. And anyway, I was just showing you that just to show you, like, things are changing for the better in some way. Those people are all irrelevant clowns. They're apologizing for seemingly other people's racism. Are they racist? Like, I don't have to sit here and apologize for racism. I'm not racist. You know what I mean? And even if generations past, you could somehow connect someone in my family to something racist, you're not guilty of your ancestors' sins, although they want you to be. So we are moving in the right direction culturally if you see those things. That's why I like showing some of those things from the past. But now let's get to the current day and people who cry racism left and right. Over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, we don't play video clips of this guy very often. His name is Lawrence O'Donnell. Phoenix told me that the other night you didn't have anything to do. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. He had nothing to do. You're 23 years old. Great job. You're out there. You should be doing things. He watched a full episode of this show. Were you drinking?
I was.
You were. He was drinking. He was drinking and watching this Lawrence O'Donnell person. Anywho, here's Lawrence recapping the debate, and yes, it's all about race.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Imagine, in that moment, the panic workings of the mind of that raging racist being corrected on that debate stage last night by 2 black women. The racism that Donald Trump grew up with told him, promised him, that that kind of thing could never happen to him.
Wherever that guy took acting classes, I don't know if should they be disbanded or do they get like a star? I'm not even sure. Like, is he a good actor or is he just a horrible actor? But that's all just like a performative, nonsensical act. Donald Trump is not racist. You might not like the policies of Donald Trump, but Donald Trump, when he was president, he did his State of the Union address and talked about lowest all-time black unemployment. Right? There are millions of black people, an increasing amount of black people who support Donald Trump. Black people, by the way, just like white people, are allowed to have a panoply of opinions, be it political or anything else. But these buffoons, yes, that's what Donald Trump was up there thinking. Oh my God, I have to argue with this black woman who I thought was Indian or something before she was black and she celebrates Kwanzaa, and then I have to deal with this other black woman. It's just such nonsense. Like, think about Donald Trump. You know, he even said, what did he say during the debate? Didn't he say something about you guys know me, right? Like, you know me. And that's right. We all do kind of know Donald Trump at this point. Do you think you know Kamala Harris or do you know Lawrence O'Donnell? What were you drinking? Because whatever it wasn't enough. Anyway, this dog cat thing keeps popping up. And yes, so about 20,000 Haitians are now in Springfield, Ohio. There are all sorts of 911 recordings and people on video talking about how dogs and cats are being eaten and that they're grabbing geese and ducks and a whole bunch more, which, by the way, Haiti, which is an extremely poor country and a good portion of the people there practice voodoo, you do end up eating some of these things. That's just it. Now, a lot of these stories are anecdotal, but it does seem like something's going on. And I suspect if 20,000 Haitians showed up in Martha's Vineyard, the media would be covering this story very, very differently. But here's Hamas supporter Ilhan Omar telling Caitlin Collins on CNN that it's just insane that we're even talking about this story and how it's become a meme problem, which means we better ban and silence people.
It's obviously a much more complicated and nuanced picture than what the Trump Vance campaign are painting about what's happening in Springfield. But when you hear a false claim like that amplified to nearly 70 million people, do you worry about what it means for the Haitian refugees who are living in places like that?
Well, first, I want to say just the insanity of having a senator, a candidate for vice president, and a former president, and now a candidate for president, really talking about memeing into reality a racist conspiracy, dangerous story like this.
They are just all so fake, the way she talks and everything else, because when she goes to her rallies, her accent gets very, very different and angry and all of that stuff. There is something going on in Springfield. We played the audio call to 911. We've shown you pictures of people holding geese. There's something weird going on there. The fact that the media is telling you that there's absolutely nothing to see there, that in and of itself implies there's something to see. I don't know the exact specifics of what's going on there, but there's a lot of videos like this because now there's citizen journalists going there and trying to talk to people about what they're seeing.
We've lost a whole bunch of cats. There was a van pulled over that had over 100 cats in it with the Haitians. They said they was eating them.
Actually?
Yeah.
Not fake news.
Not fake news.
So a van was collecting cats and eating them.
I watched it happen, yeah. Watched them get pulled over with the cats and admit to the police that they was eating them.
You're not joshing with me.
No, I'm almost 50 years old, buddy. No.
You don't mess around.
No.
Okay, so I can't speak to the truth of all of that, but there's a lot of those videos. And again, there's a video going around viral right now of a young Haitian girl, an American Haitian girl, talking about her father who came from Haiti. And because it was so poor, they did eat cats and dogs. And because it's part of the voodoo rituals and all those things. But anyway, all this goes to is that they want to so now suddenly Donald Trump is racist again. And it's just the same script over and over, and a remarkable amount of people who will constantly fall for it. Of course, the other big news beyond the debate this week was the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, which happened right after the debate. And here are Donald Trump and Kamala Harris actually shaking hands. All right, there's a little bipartisanship for you. I wonder if she introduced herself again. Hi, I'm Kamala Harris. Anyway, you may remember that the day before 9/11, Joe Biden said this.
Going up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch the debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11.
Tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. Well, one of the widows of a firefighter that lost his life on 9/11 was not particularly happy about that remark and had this to say during the ceremony.
My husband of 30 years was one of them. It is outrageous that our government would ever entertain the thought of granting the terrorists a plea deal. If not for the outcry of the 9/11 community, who knows what might have transpired. It has been 23 years and the families deserve justice and accountability. The elected officials here today show their respect and reverence to the families on September 11th. Or, in our president's words, do 9/11. Quite a flippant remark. But please remember that the September 11th families live it every day, not just on the anniversary.
God bless that woman. First off, God bless her and her family, and she lost her husband, a firefighter, in 9/11. As I mentioned, I had a cousin who was a firefighter in Queens who was dealing with 9/11 way back then. He was fine. But the fact that Biden, and yes, it's because his brain has turned to mush that he made that flippant remark, but good for her for saying something about that. And then in the weirdest possible thing that could have happened, Joe Biden put on a Trump hat yesterday at a rally, and just look how sad this has all become. And to the backdrop of, is this guy really the president at this point?
Well, I'm the only one. There you go, man. I need that hat. Want my autograph? Hell no. You know my name. Come on. I ain't going that far. Yeah. You said you would do a selfie. There he goes. Hey, I'm proud of you now. Just remember, no eating dogs and cats. Hey, now.
He just doesn't know what he's doing, right? The guy says, "You want my autograph?" Hell no. Like, what was that? And then I'm not putting the hat on, and then immediately puts the hat on, and then what an absolute farce. I want to throw to two other things real quick before we get to the community Q&A, because it is the fall, and although reruns are supposed to happen in the summer, we're getting fall reruns of the spring when we had the Hamas rallies all over New York City and a bunch of other cities. This story should be way more reported than it is, but the protesters who are now rampaging through Midtown, they're moving a little away from the campus and just taking over the city. Here's a whole bunch of people chanting "Elon Musk must die." I'm fairly certain that's not protected speech, but it's New York. So.
Elon Musk must die! Elon Musk must die! Elon Musk must die!
Yo! Put your hand behind your back! Hand behind your back! Hand behind your back! Get back! Hey, on the car. Roll the car. Get over the car. I got my shoes! Wait a minute. Get over the shoes. Let's go. Go, John. Go. They're all in that gate. Let's get them all. Go.
So look, we know this stuff will just get ramped up as it comes closer and closer to the election. Elon Musk must die. That's as close as you can get to calling for the direct death to somebody, which is not protected speech. I have great sympathy for these police officers who have had no support from the administration, who many are now not even qualified to really be police officers, at least by the qualifications of 10 or 15 years ago, because they've had to lower standards because everybody wants out. But the point is that there are just a lot of violent people in these cities. I mean, people just, how could you open a store in New York City with a glass window in the front? I mean, people can just walk up to it and bash it with a hammer and nobody's going to do anything. And then if they do get arrested, they get immediately let out. So one other thing, this is kind of funny. This was a viral video going around. These two guys, they pretended that they created a fraternity named Hamas, and they tried to recruit some young students in New York City. And I guess it's funny or sad or funny, or I don't know, you decide.
It's back to school season.
You know what that means.
Anti-Semitism. We're starting a new fraternity, Hamas.
Fuck. Are you guys anti-Israel?
Yeah.
Putting together
a Hamas fraternity. Eta, Alpha, Mu, Alpha, Sigma.
This is Hamas represent come together. We just started at NYU.
Oh, no, wait. Are you guys freshmen?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were like a 40-year-old man. Dude, Columbia is like one of the biggest Jew-hating schools out there. You down?
Yeah. I feel like that.
Hell yeah, man. Just a quick sig. Just throw me your sig right here.
Don't you need our emails or something?
Yeah. Emails and signatures. Join our Greek life, dude.
Half Greek.
Are you half Greek?
What? It's just perfect for you.
You like Spanakopita? Bro, Spanakopita is my shit, man. So basically, terms and conditions, to take a road trip to Jewish-owned businesses to protest. We're literally gonna be chanting outside of synagogues, harassing Jews.
It could feel like fashion show. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's America.
We're doing this anti-Zionist keg stand, obviously, chant to obliterate Israel, boycotting Jewish businesses, protesting synagogues.
All the good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Death to America. What do you think, dude? Kick out all those Jews, burning Israeli and American flags. You down for that?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Some of the schools are starting to crack down on the encampments. We want a safe space for Jew haters. We're bringing back the encampment, basically burning American flags. You guys down? At this point.
Yeah. Fire, absolute fire.
And all the proceeds go to funding terrorism. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Love the fit, bro.
Oh, dude, we're doing a Hamas theme formal. Everybody wears green and keffiyehs and yeah.
You're my guy, dude. Thank you so much, brother.
Want to just say, love Spanakopita. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Ari's mom, who made some great Spanakopita. A little spinach, a little phyllo dough, absolutely a Greek delicacy. But yes, it just illustrates the abject insanity that is happening in this world. And as I always say, we just got a lot of work to do to fix it up. All right, we're going to get to a Rubin Report Locals community Q&A in just a second. Let me tell you guys about the the contagion kit first. America, listen up. It's no coincidence that we're seeing a new surge of health crises just as election time is nearing. It's reported that a massive COVID spike hit with 1.2 million new cases counted daily. Then the World Health Organization declared a monkeypox global health emergency. Stop sleeping with monkeys! And now we're gearing up for a bird flu summit in October. I guess don't sleep with birds either. It's clear. They're setting the stage for more pandemics. These aren't just coincidences. They're calculated moves to keep us in fear and control. Did you know that a shocking 48% of Americans don't have any emergency supplies ready, according to the National Center for Disaster Preparedness? We saw how the medical and pharmaceutical industries failed us last time. They left us to fend for ourselves. Do you really want to count on the so-called experts? It's time to take control. Get the Contagion Emergency Kit from the Wellness Company. It's packed with ivermectin, HCQ, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, budesonide, and a nebulizer, treatments that they don't want you to have. Forget waiting in line or struggling to find a doctor willing to prescribe these life-saving meds. Just a few clicks and the kit is at your door, ready for whatever comes next. Don't let yourself be caught off guard again. Act now and protect your family for the next pandemic. Be proactive, be prepared. Order your Contagion Emergency Kit today. Visit twc.health/Rubin to get your Contagion Emergency Kit today. Promo code Rubin at checkout saves you $45. That's twc.health/Rubin. Use code Rubin to claim your discount. Remember, these kits are limited and only available in the US of A. And now back to me. Okay, community Q&A, here we go. Salanga says, do you think the Republicans should tackle the abortion issue along with the immigrant issue? If Democrats are in favor of unlimited abortion and want to reduce women having more babies, then why are we concerned that Western countries have an aging population and need millions of illegals and legals to compensate for that? If population growth is an issue for you, then don't you think having more babies should be encouraged? Oh, Salanga, my friend, I think that the flaw in your argument is that you're pretending that these people respond to sane arguments, right? We see that in Western nations. I mean, look what's going on in Japan. Western nations right now are veering close to population collapse. You need to keep procreating, bringing more children into this world so that you can keep the numbers in your nation growing and growing and growing. That's what happens in a healthy nation, right? In a nation that's been industrialized, then people find that they can live longer, healthier lives and reproduce and everything else. There's a series of reasons that we're not doing that right now in the United States. But connecting the abortion issue to anything else, unfortunately, I don't think will work for most of the people that put abortion in the top of that hierarchy of importance. And unfortunately, a lot of women do. Look, I think Trump has been as good. No, it's not as good. Trump has been better than I would say any Republican I've ever heard on abortion. He did the right thing by appointing justices that got Roe v. Wade removed. It doesn't matter what your position on abortion is. It was never supposed to be a federal issue. What is not laid out in the Constitution is left to the states. That's what the reversal of decision was really all about. And obviously, it doesn't say abortion is a federally guaranteed right in the Constitution. So it was left to the states. The states can then decide, and you can decide where you want to live. They can't stop you from leaving the state if you want to have an abortion, right? If you want to have an 8-month abortion, go to Minnesota where Tim Walz is the governor and you can do that, or go to California and do that. I think the problem, again, you're trying to apply logic in an issue where not only they don't use logic, but the way that Trump said, I'm not for an abortion, a national abortion ban, and then both Lindsey Davis and Kamala were like, you're for it. And it's like, no. He's not for it. And we don't know what's in Trump's heart of hearts as it pertains to abortion, but we know he's not, as a human being, completely pro-life. He also talked about exceptions in case of rape and incest and a whole bunch more. So I think it's one of those things that, unfortunately, because of the framing, the way the media does, and the way that they've made it seem like they're coming for women, they just have a certain amount of people being held hostage by the abortion issue. Lori says, I lost 2 friends on Flight 77. Oh, wow. I was supposed to be on Flight 77, but changed my plans the day before. Holy cow. 9/11 shouldn't need an explanation of why it's significant and horrible, yet there is a movement within Gen Z that it's not important, that older people exaggerate the importance of 9/11, that it's actually funny. They make memes of people jumping from the towers. How have we raised Gen Z to be sociopaths? Are they completely lacking empathy for their fellow Americans and humans? What can we do because Gen Z will eventually be in charge? I mean, yeah, you do see some of this stuff or some of the crazy conspiracy stuff and everything else. Look, in some respects, where we're at culturally with the media, like the whole damn thing politically, to me feels like it was just the natural extension of what was going to happen to us with, 25 years of this thing. Walking around with all of this in social media, it was going to break brains. It was going to confuse people. It was going to confuse people about literally the history as it pertains to the founding of the country and 9/11, and then confuse people if their genitals match their gender. Like, it was going to do all of these things. And now enough of us are realizing that hopefully we'll develop different relationships with, this device that we're all carrying in our pocket that has more knowledge in it, good and bad, than anything our ancestors could have ever possibly imagined, right? The phone and everything it can do, walking around in your pocket, like that's stuff of science fiction of 100 years ago. And here we are. So that's how quickly things change. And 100 years may sound like a lot of time, but it actually isn't. Think how different the world will be. I was born in 1976. Think how different the world will be in 2076. I'm not even sure I want to be around for it, but think about that. So it's really, really sad when you see these things, when you see these, there was that moment on TikTok for like a week where they were putting up, young people in America putting up all these videos that Osama bin Laden's the good guy and the rest of it. I was there. I know what it was, but you don't have to be there to know what it was. And the thing that it did, at least temporarily, to bring us together, I wonder, is a horrific, unimaginable tragedy. The only thing that could do that to us again, maybe, or maybe this time it would just further rip us apart because nobody would believe it as we were, believe the same thing as we were watching it in real time. I don't know what the answer is on that. Bradford says, with the cheating in the only states that matter, just like in 2020, I don't kid myself about the probable outcome. Do you believe in miracles? Look, we played a video last week with Brett Weinstein on Joe Rogan, and he talked about that there's like some margin that they can cheat on. Everyone can on every which side. In anything, there's like a margin you can cheat. Think about it. If you were playing a basketball game and you had bet on the basketball game and you're a player, there's a margin you can cheat on. You can't magically make your team win by 20 points, and it would be hard to make your team lose by 20 points without it being obvious. But would there be a way, if the game is close at the end, that you could step on the line as you're shooting a three, or could you intentionally miss a shot or throw a pass out of bounds? And that's the same thing with anything that is close. There's ways to fiddle with it. What Brett was arguing was we have to overload the system. And I think a lot of people are basically saying that, overload the system at this point. Now, of course, you need to think about it a little deeper than that, in that certain states like California, they're going blue no matter what. It's the states that are on the fence. It's the Colorados, right? It's the Nevadas. It's the Ohios, it's the Pennsylvanias, the Arizonas for sure, that you need to make sure that you vote, that hopefully the RNC and the Trump team have done the right job in terms of watching, poll watchers and everything else, that they're tightening up all of this stuff about mail-in ballots. I don't know, but I think this is it. Like, this is the big one, guys. So do I believe in miracles? I do, actually, I do. Meg says, hey, Dave, my younger brother is gay. He's almost 30 and wants to settle down, get married, and eventually adopt kids. He's very frustrated, though, and says no one in the gay community wants kids. How do you find a fellow gay that wants a family? It's so interesting because I guess that's sort of the main notion out there or something. But I know a lot of gay people, men and women, that have kids, that have families, that are doing great, that are flourishing. And you just, it's so annoying to talk about. You just gotta find, whether you're gay or straight or anything else, you gotta find someone that you love. You gotta find someone that you respect, that you wanna build a good life with. And then if you wanna bring children in the world, like, it'll be a little more complex if you're gay, for sure, on multiple fronts. And I'm sure I'll have to confront things that I haven't even really thought about yet in the future when my kids ask me some questions about things. I mean, obviously we've discussed it and thought about it, but you can find the right person. There are literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of children that are being raised by gay families right now. They're flourishing and doing great, and he will find somebody. If you just got to find the right person. Like, you got to put it out in the universe will give you something good back. Donna says, why is it easier for Democrat voters to believe that there are 100 genders and men can get pregnant than believe migrants are eating pets? What is more far-fetched? Trump should have asked Kamala to define what a woman was. Yeah, he should have had a couple of those lines just ready to go. Like, he should have turned to her and said, Kamala, do you think verifying people is a hoax? Yes or no? Like, you just said it. You don't know that the next sentence out of my mouth was that. He should have said to her, what is a woman? Tell me what a woman is. If you're so concerned, I'm coming for women's rights. As it pertains to the veracity of the claims about the eating of the cats and dogs, I suspect we're going to find out a little bit more about this, because you know how the media works. First, they tell you something's not happening. Then they tell you it's only far-right people pushing it. Then they're like, oh, it's happening, but it's not a big deal. And eventually they're like, oh, it is happening, but, okay, everything's equal. Everything's equal. Who are we to judge? So, yeah. Quasi says, with the future looking grim in terms of the left getting their way regarding free speech in our Western governments, UK and here in Australia, wanting to become more like China, is anyone big on the right consciously planning and thinking of practical ways to circumvent this, like World War II resistance style? I know you've said Rumble has its own servers, but what if big tech just kicks Rumble or Locals app off the Play Store? So I don't know that I can get into all of the specifics around the Google Store and the App Store and the apps and everything. We are in those stores right now, Rumble and Locals, and Twitter for that matter. But any of the companies that you think are doing something decent, so let's say you think that Rumble and Locals, particularly, and X, Twitter, are the big three in terms of free speech, they should be doing all, I say this as a private citizen, they should be doing all of these things, everything they need to do to make sure that they cannot be blown up like Parler, that their servers are as secure as possible. And, you still have to play in the game to a certain extent, unless eventually Elon Musk, it would probably have to be Elon, was to build a phone and a new store and all of those things, a new marketplace, like, it's going to be tricky. So there are no perfect ways out of this yet, but I will always bet on humans and the human mind and human ingenuity to outsmart. Like, there's always a better mousetrap, and that is just true. And people find a way. People find a way. So yes, we have a huge monolith to fight. Like, does it seem at the moment that, I guess, Facebook, I'm not really on Facebook, but that Facebook is a little better as it pertains to free speech than maybe they were during the election or during COVID? I suppose, but do we have any idea what's going on with the algorithms? Do we have any idea what's going on with the YouTube algorithms or anything else? And look at the pushback that Elon got just by saying, hey, we will allow more free speech. So it's a huge fight. And in a real way, in some respects, it's the only fight, because if we can't communicate properly, without like a distorted funhouse mirror, showing us something back to us that is not real. And social media was supposed to be a reflection of what's real. It's like, you put an idea out there, you think it's just going to is what it is. Other people do the same thing. And then we have this marketplace of ideas. But when we get a manipulated algorithm and all of the other shadow banning and everything else, then it becomes a funhouse mirror, and we look at it and it's complete distortion. And then how can you properly assess any of the other issues that we talk about here all the time? John says, curious as to what kind of history will be written about Trump and by whom. The discussion that follows any narrative are sure to ignite Trump, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, reaffirming our separation. Will a massive one-sided landslide victory for Trump in November help set things right with an appropriate accounting of our times for the history books? Look, most books, unfortunately, even history books, are written by lefties, so I don't know what resets that. However, what could possibly get us out of this in terms of an election? Like, what would be, if I was to tell you what the best outcome is? The best outcome is a Trump landslide. I mean a real landslide, like Reagan re-election 84 landslide. Now, let's do the negative part first. Will the left go apoplectic? Yes. Will they suddenly claim that the election was stolen somehow by Trump? Yes. Will big tech try to do things? Yes. Will they unleash the people on the streets? And will there be violence? Yes. All of those things. I cannot deny any of those things would be there. But for the vast majority of elections, for the vast majority of Americans, if it was an overwhelming election, I think people would all look around, and maybe even some lefties, although this is tricky, But most people would look around and say, you know what? Enough of this. Enough of whatever we've done for the last decade related to gender and hating our country and allowing criminality and allowing people in and all this stuff. Like, let's get back to something decent. It was my ultimate argument for Trump when I supported him the second time around after not supporting him the first time around. I always said Trump was the healthy tension once I came around to him and realized what was going on here. Trump is basically the healthy tension between liberalism and conservatism, right? Trump is obviously not a hardcore conservative, right? And he's obviously not a hardcore liberal, but he's got a little bit of both. And that's what America kind of was founded on. And that's what most people are. So I have no doubt that there will be a huge amount of people and a media onslaught and everything and burn it down and all of that stuff. But most people then would be like, you know what? It's time to move on. It's time to move on. And there's evidence of that, which is exactly what I showed you at the top of the show. 5 years ago, athletes were being bludgeoned into saying they support BLM and bowing and kneeling and all of those things. Even Democrats right now, would they kneel to BLM in the Capitol like they did last time? Probably not. A whole bunch of us have learned some things, and we shall see in about 60 days. Terry says, what's your number one goal for the Rubin Report this year? Look, the show has blown up. I mean, we've already crushed all of our numbers ever in 2024 for any previous year. We had crushed them all by July. Every month basically is our best month. I think our 8 best months ever are all in this calendar year. I suppose my profile has grown in a lot of ways. That's all great. Phoenix, we do a weekly team meeting with the whole team every week to set expectations and what everybody's working on and what we want to do. And Phoenix said something that I really liked to the team, which was, let's make everything beautiful. Let's make our video production better. Let's make our audio better. Let's make all of our clips sharper and cooler and fun and all of those things. So I think we're going to level up in all of those ways. I will continue to do my best to tell you the truth, the best that I can. There was, some weirdness last week, which I'll be able to address next week. And I think that kind of pushed me into the zeitgeist a bit more, let's say. And I just want to keep growing and doing better and telling people what I think and hopefully helping people wake up. Like, that would be enough for me. James says, if you could wave a magic wand, what position would you give to RFK Jr. in the Trump administration? Well, a lot of people are like, oh, he should head the DOJ or he should head the FBI or like something like that. I don't know that that's exactly it, but I think if, you call him a czar or whatever you want to call him, but he should be in charge of finding out what's going on at the agencies. So imagine if the head of some of these agencies, and I'm also talking about like the NIH or the rest of it, imagine if they had to report to him as to what they really are doing. What are your budgets? How many people do you have? What is your mission statement? How much DEI is in your departments right now? Who are the people that you've brought in? Like, I think that would be an unbelievably great job for him. So it's not that he should just, from my opinion, it's not that just setting him straight, like, you're now the head of the NIH and reform the place. No, you can find someone that specific job can be delegated to. But imagine if he was at the top of that, in charge of the people who are running these things and really figuring out what's going on there. That seems really good and doable. I think it's absolutely something he would be interested in doing. And I could absolutely see Trump giving him something like that. Libby says, you inspired me to do a version of Off the Grid where I delete all social media and news apps and don't watch any news in August. I love that. I've done a week, 2 weeks, and this year I did the whole month. I felt like an NPC without a care in the world. My first news was your comeback show. Does it always feel a bit like whiplash when you start looking at current events again? Do you slowly ease back in or jump in with both feet? Well, I mentioned on the comeback show this year was very different than other years. The first year was kind of a joke. Then it got easier over the years. Also, we didn't have kids, so my life in general was more like I could just kind of do whatever I want. This year, it was like we went away for a while. It was wonderful renewal of body, mind, and spirit, then spent a ton of time with the kids, but that's obviously exhausting, right? So like I came back, I didn't feel like as maybe like purely refreshed or something as I would have maybe 3 years ago when we could just, lounge around all day and do nothing. But I felt a spiritual renewal and like a joy of being around the kids and all that. As for the news, short of the RFK thing, nothing really like that amazing, or I was going to say nothing that horrible happened, but those 6 hostages were killed, including the American. But that wasn't completely out of left field. So I mean, it's what you saw on that comeback show. It's all legit. I sit there. I love and adore Sage. She was a wonderful host to bring me back because she has a great way of doing both the personal and the political. And you saw it there. And I think it took 2 or 3 days to kind of get my rhythm doing the show again. But now I'm back in. I'm back in, for better or worse. Rich says, "Hey Dave, I like the new opening to the show. Was the theme song created specifically for the show?" Yes, it was created specifically for the show. There may be some other versions of it in the works. We're discussing some things, to maybe kind of have a few different versions of it, maybe depending on the topics we're doing that day or what vibe we want to get across. The restaurant that we filmed that in, the part where I'm drinking the tequila, is my favorite tequila drinking place here in Miami. Oh, and speaking of tequila, my tequila should be out next month. We're going to do a pre-sale and a special discount for everyone on Locals first. We think it'll be out next month. Certainly the pre-sale will be, and it will definitely be out and ready to be delivered and should be in some stores, at least in Miami, by November. It's just taken time. There's a lot of stuff related to importing alcohol is just tricky, and licensing things. And then, if you get like one word wrong on one of the forms, there's just some stuff, but it's taken time. And I'm just telling you, it is truly the most delicious, wonderful tequila you have ever tasted. It's funny, we came back, you may remember, I came back from Mexico when we went for our final tasting. I came back with a case of it. I only have one bottle left. We have a lot of parties here and whatever. I only have one bottle left, and I'm cherishing it because I'm drinking other tequila now, and I'm like, man, this is just not as good. So I'm so psyched to get this out there. So stay tuned on that. Glenn says, "I keep hearing more and more lately about worries that World War III is coming soon. How much credence do you give to the possibility that it could really happen in the very near future, especially if the Democrats find a way to keep the White House and Congress?" Well, look, it's one of those things. It's like talking about civil war. You don't want to talk certain things into existence. However, I would say that the Democrats right now are playing with fire across the world. They're playing with fire in the Middle East. They're playing with fire as it relates to Russia, Ukraine. We're constantly ramping up things. We're not defending our allies properly. Our messaging is completely messed up. And the world is right when the US is right. It doesn't mean we do everything perfectly. We definitely don't. But when we lead, and I think that's what most people in the world want, when we lead properly, the world does get more organized. And by the way, it was more organized and definitely more peaceful under a certain orange man. So is it possible that things get significantly worse in the next 60 days? Because if the average person feels that it's a crisis, would you suddenly be like, oh my God, we have to bring Trump back in. He's so crazy and bananas. Like, forget the actual track record. We must stick with Kamala because it will just extend the thing. Like, never let a crisis go to waste. If the Democrats have the Senate, God forbid, and the House and the presidency, like, why would they ramp down things? Like, I can't tell it to you any other way than we're in a messy, precarious situation right now, and we don't have proper leadership, and we don't have a media that will hold that leadership to account. So I just hope we can get out of this. Olaf says, which of the dead U.S. presidents would you like to have a sit-down conversation with? And it need not be about politics. The guy I usually say, I'm going to answer it a different way. The guy I usually say when people ask me some version of this question is Thomas Jefferson. I've been to Monticello in Virginia many times, taken that tour. The idea that he was a slave owner writing the laws that were freeing the slaves, but even forgetting about that side, he was an inventor. Like, he was inventing things. He has this incredible, so he's in Virginia in the summer, right? This is, 200 plus years ago. And he created this unbelievable storage space so that he could make ice in Virginia in the summer. Like, he was just doing all of these cool things, inventing all sorts of things, and everything that he was doing politically. And yes, he had relations with the slave while writing the laws to free them. Like, there's just so much there. But I think the answer, and maybe this is somewhat cliche, but George Washington, if you take everything that's going on politically and culturally right now, think about George Washington, first president of the United States. So a country is born, he becomes president. It's a fight for the country to be born. It's a fight to figure out the documents. It's having left England, leaving a king, all of that. He becomes the president of the United States. And then in our Revolutionary War, he's the leader of the army. So now he's the president and the leader of the army. Now, the Revolutionary War wins. He wins the Revolutionary War. And in effect, most people wanted him to remain the leader of the army and the president. And he said, no, I will not do that. That will lead us to being right under King George again. Think about that, like relative to all of the stuff politically right now and the clowns that I have to talk about constantly and these terrible people in politics and everything else, that he had the wherewithal and the thoughtfulness to do that, and how that then set up a situation that led us to 250 years of prosperity and fighting authoritarianism and so much more. Like, it really, really is incredible. But beyond all that, I'd love to talk to him about having wooden teeth. I've seen the wooden teeth. Where are they? At their Smithsonian, or I've seen them at, I think they have them, they move them around. I think they have one set of them. I went to his house, it's outside of DC. It's in, what's it called? His house. Monticello is Thomas Jefferson. His is, come on, help me here. George Washington's house. Mount Vernon, of course, Mount Vernon. They had his teeth there. I think they're also in the Smithsonian. But like, think about all that. He's doing all this and he's got wooden teeth. So there you go. Guys, if you did not see our show yesterday with co-host Megyn Kelly, check it out. She just did a wonderful destruction of how horrific the moderators were during that 3-on-1 debate. That's it for the weekend. I hope you get off the devices a little bit. I'll share some food pictures and a bunch more on Locals, and we'll see you on Monday. Ciao.
That's why we're here today, because we have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make the possible actually happen.